Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us, and that helps the bands and artists that we feature. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear, RAR. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited and honored to have Mr. J. Isaiah Evans here today on the podcast. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here.
So, you played Americanafest. We were at Americanafest. Talk to the audience about that experience because it was not your first time playing it.
No, this is, maybe the fourth Americana Fest I've played, second time officially. Always fun. I like to I like to tell people that if they're a fan of the music, go to Americana Fest. If they like the party, go to South by. But Americana Fest, you get access to seeing bands like Dogg in a little tiny club, Nathaniel Rateliff in a tiny club, and emerging bands like mine. You get to meet up close and experience that music and find your new favorite band just at every venue in the city. It seems everybody's doing something. So I always like going back to Nashville for Americana Fest. It's one of the places where you can actually still do business. Last year, very flattered to take a meeting with a record label that was interested, and it didn't work out. But the fact that they could find me after we played on the Bobby Hotel rooftop, and we could go off somewhere and sit and talk, was fantastic. And you can meet people that can help your career. You can network with other artists that you may want to tour with. That's at the heart of Americana Fest from the artist side. And I think it's cool that cities are getting involved in going to Americana Fest and putting on showcases that highlight their music towns. The featured city this year at Americana Fest was Fort Worth, Texas, which is just 30 minutes from where I am here in Dallas. Friendly rivalry, but you got great music out of Fort Worth. You got talked about Quaker City Nighthawks earlier, Leon Bridges out of Fort Worth, all these great artists. So a city can brag on themselves a little bit and say, we have these artists, we have these venues. While you're out touring, while you're out scouting for new acts for your roster, come check out our city too. That's the real upside of Americana Fest. Really cool thing that I'm happy to see growing. A lot of festivals, we know South by has pulled back on music. They cut their music conference back by a week as they turn to more film and more television and tech, which is all fine. But having a festival that's still about the music is pretty cool.
Yeah, I felt like this was our first time being there, and it felt like it had all of the good qualities of South by, and I didn't really see any negative. So, I mean,
No,
that's a
yeah,
win.
it feels like, people talk about how South by was 20 years ago. And, I went down to South by in my 20s, and yeah, it has that feel to it where it's still about catching a band and somebody you'd read about, somebody you'd heard about on Outlaw Country or whatever, and they're in town this week. I'm going to go catch them in like I said, in a tiny club.
Yeah.
It's a real great concept.
So we saw you at Dee's Country Lounge, which is an iconic venue in Nashville.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the other venues that you like to play or that you've seen shows at.
I've been fortunate enough to play at Exit Inn twice. I know it's going through some changes. It might survive, it might not. But legendary venue. We played at the 5 spot for our official showcase, which is a room I've been trying to play for a while. 40 Acre got booked in there, my other band, and we got bumped because John Doe wanted to do a pop-up show. And I was like, well, okay, if we're going to get bumped, I guess That's all right. Um, but Dee's Lounge is one of those places that you feel comfortable the minute you walk in there. This is our second year to play at Dee's, and the ownership group, it's all, I believe now, all woman owned, and they are sharp as tacks and motivated and a great sense of how to pay homage to what the bar is and what it has been, and yet still bring it into the future with, they're booking more rock and roll. It's not just honky tonk. Yeah. They're still booking Red Dirt, and it's become one of my favorite places to play in Nashville.
It's funny though, the parking is very limited.
It is. You better have a plan if you're going to get there. Everybody that played that day, we pull our van in, load our stuff in, and then you almost had to draw straws to figure out who's going to go find a place to put the van. Yeah. But fortunately, it's kind of nestled against a neighborhood, and everybody in the neighborhood, they seem to understand that, hey, people are going to park over here, and so there are ways around it if people are just cool.
Yeah. So how long were you then in Nashville for Americanafest this year then?
We stayed in Nashville. We got to town on a Tuesday and left on Sunday.
Okay.
So we're there almost a week. We wanted to get in the night before our first show so we could get a good rest and settle into our Airbnb, and it worked out. We found a great Airbnb over in East Nashville, pretty close to everything we needed to do. Everything we had scheduled was either in East Nashville, out at Dee's, or downtown on Broadway, all the stuff we had scheduled going on. So we got a good night's sleep, and we went on a band field trip to the gym, which has actually become kind of a thing when we're on the road. And we realized that the gym was right across the street from Dee's Lounge that morning. We're like, oh, we could have just brought our stuff and thrown it in there now. But got in there, and that, like I said, the energy of that place, fantastic. It was a good way to start the week.
Yeah, not bad for 3:00 on a Wednesday, right?
And everybody was dynamite. Everybody on that bill was great. I'm no singer-songwriter. I don't have a big hat. I don't play acoustic. That's just not what I do. When I play solo, it's a little low wattage amp cranked all the way up so it'll break up, and usually a Telecaster. That's how I play solo. The people that are the singer-songwriter up there laying it bare with an acoustic guitar, I have immense respect for. So you had a nice outside stage with the singer-songwriters and inside stage for the full bands for the most part. And Keystone knocked it out of the park with that lineup. Really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about them. I mean, Keystone Artists Connect, you've been with them now for how long, and how have they kind of helped you in your music career?
Let's go back to the beginning. Sure. A few years back, I was playing with the 40 Acre Mule in Nashville. Again, at the Bobby Hotel. The Bobby Hotel hosts this party with the Texas Music Office and Kessler Presents, which is a great production company down here in Texas. Lots of great venues around the state. But they team up to throw a showcase of Texas artists from all over the state. We played, and at that show, there was a young lady named Danielle Mashuda who we connected. Fast forward a few months, I run into her at an Elizabeth Cook show in Fort Worth, Texas. And I look at her and I said, were you on the rooftop at the Bobby Hotel? And her eyes opened, all her girlfriends that were there too. They're like, you're J. Isaiah Evans from the 40 Acre Mule. So yeah, so we connected, and she had started this management consulting firm called Keystone Artists Connect up in Pittsburgh. I became aware of the work she was doing. She was working with Summer Dean, with Taylor Honeycutt. I'd done some work with some friends of ours, Vandaliers, and was doing some good stuff. And I just always kept an eye on what she and her partners were doing. And it gradually expanded. It expanded into Texas, expanded into Nashville. And I got to a point where I didn't want a manager. I like to hold as much control of my career as I can, but I did need some help. If I was not going to have a record label, if I was going to be the record label, I needed some people that had some connections and inroads with radio, with some opportunities outside of just streaming your music, selling your physical media, selling merch, all the traditional ways that we make money in music. I knew I was going to hire a publicist. I was not going to hire a radio promoter for this record. So I needed someone that could bridge the gap there. And we connected. She offered me an opportunity to become my manager. I declined. And I said, here's why. I want to maintain as much control as possible. On top of that, I consider Danielle Mashuda one of my closest friends. And it gets tricky when things get too intertwined there.
Sure.
But we agreed on a consulting deal. And that consulting deal has been invaluable. It is just the advice she's given, the doors she's opened. I signed a deal through Keystone with Symphonic Distribution, which handled my digital distribution, open doors for me I couldn't have possibly had. My relationship with SiriusXM, also because of Keystone Artist Connect. Outlaw has been fantastic to me, and they have really embraced Americana Radio. So yeah, they have been wonderful, absolutely fantastic. It's good to have somebody that's fighting for you and handling the stuff that you couldn't do for yourself. We're at a time where the independent artists can do more for themselves probably than any point ever. I mentioned the record label that I met with last year that didn't work out. Part of why it didn't work out was they wanted to shelve the record for another 18 months. We had momentum at the time. I understand they have their timeline. They have other projects that they're committed to. I had momentum. I wanted to put it out. I had already been sitting on this record for a while because we just started touring. And once the touring started, it didn't stop. Yeah. So if I was going to do it myself, I had to put together a team, and adding Keystone as part of that, game changer. They're doing good stuff. They're doing really, really, really good stuff with artists, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, their party at Arlen Studios at South by this past year was off the chain.
They know how to throw a party. They absolutely know how to throw a party. And the upside of that is, yeah, it's great to have the party, but when you know how to throw a party and you know how to get the attention of the people that need to be at that party, that says a lot. Yeah. You know, you're throwing a great party, that's one thing, but the industry people that can help move your career in the right direction know that if they go to that party, they're going to see some bands that they hadn't seen before, bands they'd heard of, get to see them up close, get over in a corner and have a conversation. And Keystone's been really good about getting that attention.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so funny though, how things quickly can change in this industry. So case in point, right? After we were at that show, because that was a Friday, their showcase at Arlen Studios.
Yeah.
I think we left there around 3:00 in the afternoon because I was really into this band from Philadelphia called Snack Time. They're a 7-piece band. If you're an NBA fan, they all dress up in Sixers jerseys with their names on the back. And they kind of like have a Roots kind of sound, like, you know, like that kind of vibe, right? Well, they played at the Yeti store, right?
Okay.
We
Yeah.
saw them at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Yeti store.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Friday night, we went to see Mount Joy, sold out at the Pavilion in Philadelphia, and they brought out Snack Time for 3 songs.
That's
And I'm
great.
like, oh my God, look, they played
That's
the,
fantastic.
150 people at Yeti, and six
Yeah.
months later, they're playing in front of 12,000. Like, it's just crazy.
It's the nature of this business.
Yeah, it
Nature of
really
this
is.
business.
So let's talk about then. You went to the ceremony for Americana, or you didn't go to the ceremony at Americana Fest, but one
No.
of your heroes, the old 97s, was honored. Talk about like their influence on you and like that whole experience with the ceremony.
Well, we like to say in my camp that last year, Dave Alvin and Jimmy Dale Gilmore, Dave Alvin got a Lifetime Achievement Award. We had been on tour with him and Jimmy Dale Gilmore. This year, it's Old 97s. The next week, we were out with them. So I see a consistent pattern of if you take Jazz Evans and the Boss Tweed out on the road, you're going to get honored at Americana Fest. And I'm going to hope that that tradition continues. But in this case, it was the Old 97s who I've known for years. If people don't know, they're from the Dallas area, just like us. So I've known those guys a long, long time. I remember going to see them when Hitchhike to Rome came out, uh, sneaking into clubs underage and watching their career take this 30-year path that it's taken. It's a lot of work, and it's a good example of how to do it. They will tell you that there are a lot of examples of how not to do it as well. They are that bridge between country music and rock and roll. If you ask them, they call themselves a rock and roll band, and they're right. It's a rock and roll band. It's rock and roll with an accent, and that has kind of done what in a way what I do is similar. It is, yes, it's rock and roll, but it is, in my case, twinned with soul and blues, which is where rock and roll all comes from anyway. Touring, releasing records, doing it the old-fashioned way, that's kind of how 97s did it. They did it up I-35 from here in Dallas, put you up the middle of the country, and you can conquer the Midwest. And from there, word spreads about your music to either coast. And so I've kind of followed the same trajectory they did, trying to conquer Oklahoma and Missouri and Kansas and Illinois up to Chicago and back down, and then over to Nashville, and just kind of all the places that you can tour from Dallas. Old 97s did it first, and they did it great, and that's how they built their fan base. And so I've kind of done the same thing. Also, their songwriting. Rhett and Murray are two of the most dynamic songwriters. They write songs for drinking on a Saturday night, and they write songs that'll just absolutely break your heart into a million pieces. And I love that. Be able to tell the full spectrum of life in a song. And both of them have been able to do that for so many years in their solo careers and with Old 97s. And Philip's a dynamite drummer, getting to watch him play drums. And one of my dear friends is Ken Bethea, their guitar player. We're obviously gear nerds together. And we also, you may not know this, we all share an affinity for disc golf. They are avid disc golfers on the road. That's how they kill their time on the road. And I played disc golf growing up, loved it, still play it every once in a while. So to see those guys get honored in Nashville by an industry that really, I don't think, knew what to do with them when they hit. What is this cowpunk thing? And now we all know it. The alternative, cowpunk, alt country, all of that applied to them early and often. Them, Slobberbone, Two Cow Garage, all these bands that were kind of from around here, and they kind of led the way in breaking that out and made it okay to play rock and roll in the country world. And getting a Lifetime Achievement Award handed to you by Roseanne Cash. That's pretty amazing. It's
And her
pretty,
speech
I'm
was so
so proud of
eloquent.
them.
Yeah, her speech
Yeah.
was so eloquent. It was so
Yeah.
well said. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't go. I went back and watched it. We ended up at the after party. But I went back and watched the things she had to say about them, and spot on. Absolutely spot on.
So, any conversations that you'd like to share at the after party that you had with anybody that is influential in the biz?
I did. We had a really fun photo op with Rhett in front of the Ryman, which was really a cool moment. And I looked at that picture, and he's like, "Let's get this shot together," because we were announcing that we were heading out with them like the next day.
Yeah.
And it was, I will say this, it was a nice full circle moment for me, because those guys took the 40 Acre Mule, my old band, out on the road. And just as we were putting out our first record, then COVID hit and that tour got shut down. But we ended up going out with them a couple of more times, and then to hook up with them with this band for one down in Austin, and then some more we're going to do next year, and seeing them get that award and taking that just a moment in an alley behind the Ryman, getting a picture with Red was really cool. It's a really cool night.
Yeah, the first time we were in Nashville was in 2018, and we actually got to see Buddy Guy and Christine Kingfish.
Oh yeah, Kingfish
at the Ryman.
Yeah.
So not a bad show to,
No, man. Two greats right there. Yeah, Buddy still going, man. Still got it.
Still got it. Yeah, I mean, talk about, like, for people who've never been inside the Ryman, what it's like to be inside that place.
You know the minute you set foot into the Ryman what it is, and the people that, for people that don't know, the Ryman was the original home of the Grand Ole Opry before they moved over to their big studio space and what it is now. But in that space, you have had some of the most important voices in American roots music play, whether it's country, whether it's gospel, whether it's bluegrass, blues, rhythm and blues. They've all walked that stage at the Ryman, and you feel all of that the minute you walk in there. It's an old church just off Broadway in Nashville, and the city's built up around it. It's kind of it's almost like a cornerstone of downtown. Mm-hmm. The way it's built around it, and you go in there, and it's creaky old pews, and it's still, you feel that it's a church, but instead of being a church of a denomination now, it's a church of American music. Mm-hmm. And you feel that reverence when you walk into the place. And fortunately for me, they book rock and roll in there now. So maybe one day, knock on wood, I'll get a shot. But it is one of the most special places we have for music, not just in the United States, but in the world.
So growing up in Dallas, Texas, talk about, I mean, because I think some people don't realize, everybody thinks, oh yeah, Texas is a big state, but like for touring and tour routing, just to be able to do the state of Texas, I mean, it is not easy. And I've heard this from many musicians that live in Texas. Talk about that struggle, especially when you guys were first coming out, starting out.
Well, yeah, Texas is a really big state. Where I am in north central Texas, you have I-35, which runs north-south, and that will take you down to Austin and San Antonio. So in a straight line, you can play those two markets. Then if you head east out of there, you can go hit Houston. West, you've got Abilene and Lubbock, and further on out to El Paso. So all of these are very separate markets. What people don't realize is you can drive for 12 hours from one point of Texas and still be in Texas. Half the trip from South Texas to California is getting out of Texas. It's a 24-hour drive, but half of that is just getting out of Texas. So touring from here and touring within the state, you have those big markets, but you also have countless small communities where there are dance halls, there are small venues, there are theater venues. And there's a band out of here, and I really wish that they had hit now, because I think that 1100 Springs would have been one of the biggest new honky tonk country bands on the planet if they had hit now instead of when they came out. This band, everybody in it, amazing player. Matt Hillier's voice, incredible. They made a reputation for themselves by playing every week and never left Texas, but they only play Dallas maybe 2 times a year. That's how big Texas is. You can go play a different city, a different market, tour full time in Texas only, and not oversaturate in one place. It is a massive space, and that's a lot of talent buyers. That's a lot of promoters that you have to deal with. It's a lot of VFW halls. It's a lot of dance halls. It's a lot of playing barbecues, but you can make a career out of it just playing here. Me personally, I want something bigger. We don't play dance halls because we're not a country band. We do play with country artists, which I love doing because I think that the country fan and the rock and roll fan are the same fan. You know, they just sometimes they wear a black t-shirt, sometimes they put on a hat. But the music's all from kind of the same place. So I love these shows where we're going to go play with Silverado, or we, go play with Matt Hillier. But that being said, in Texas, you can play full time in the state.
Yeah, that's crazy. It really is crazy. Like, coming from Pennsylvania, which is a pretty big state, I know that you couldn't do that in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. I had a lady once, I was flying from LaGuardia back to Dallas, and she saw that I was from Dallas. She was working at the airport, and she's like, "Oh, I'm coming to Dallas." I'm like, "Okay, great. What are you doing?" "Oh, there's a water park called Schlitterbahn." And she goes, "Oh, we're going to Schlitterbahn." It's like, "And you're flying into Dallas?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "You may want to look at a map because you're pretty far away from where that water park is. You may want to fly to San Antonio, Texas instead, because most of your trip's going to be driving if you do that." It's a big place, great bands. It's more than just Austin for live music now. And you got Joshua Ray Walker from my neck of the woods, Vandaliers, Leon Bridges, Charlie Crockett, all of us from up here in North Texas. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, great state, great musical tradition from Willie Nelson on down to, we talked about West Texas Exiles.
Yeah.
Jimmy
Peterson Brothers.
Yeah. Monsters. Those guys are great.
So fantastic
players. Yeah.
Yeah. So like in Dallas now compared to like when you were growing up, like music venue wise, are there a lot of venues that promote like indie music? Are there like bands like you that can play like, that have residencies or anything like that? Or is it mostly cover bands?
There are cover bands. I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Venues have taken a hit coming out of COVID. We all know that. And that's a shame. There are still some great places here in North Texas where you can go play your songs. You can go play at Double Wide, shameless plug, where I'll be here October 17th with Sophie Galt out of Nashville and a super secret surprise guest that I'm not supposed to say the name of, but I think I can say she's on Bloodshot Records, and I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to give too much away. But you can play at Double Wide, you can play at 8 Airs, which is a legendary honky tonk here in Dallas. Jack Ingram, Pat Green, everybody got their start there playing at 8 Air Saloon. There are still really good music venues here. We are also in a major market, so a lot of the smaller venues have been pushed out by the big venues. There are several Live Nation venues here. Um, AEG has a hand in the market, and those are great. All those companies have really been good to me too. But there are also venues where you kind of have to already be established to get your foot in the door, even as support. Um, for an up and coming artist, there are still some places where you can do residencies. There are open mics that still happen. Not as many as there were back in the old days, and that's a shame because I see a trend where a lot of kids are starting to play real instruments again, and there's kind of this pushback to the digital music. Um, Guitar sales picked up during COVID. People wanted to learn to play, and they put together bands, and now they want to go play live, but there's nowhere to go play. But Dallas and Fort Worth and Denton are hanging in there. You got Dan Silverleaf up in Denton, and for like the real indie stuff, Rubber Gloves Rehearsal Studios in Denton. Thelma, some buddies of ours, Thelma and the Sleeves, were just up there not long ago, and out of Nashville. And so you got some spots, but then you lose clubs like Andy's, which was a legendary venue in Denton forever, shut down. And every time you look up, it seems like another venue is closing its doors, and we can't have that. We got to find a way to support live music in big cities and small. Because once it's gone, it's really hard to reopen a venue. It's really tough.
Yeah.
And as far as the cover band thing goes, I get it. I was in a cover band. That's all fine and good. I'm glad people are playing music, and I wish them well. For me personally, I found it soul stealing to just play other folks' music all the time. I could not go back to it. I get it, but if people supported new live music the way they do support cover bands and tribute bands, they might find their new favorite band. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, they're supporting live music and original music in their communities, which is a good thing. I don't want to rain on the parade of cover bands. There are cover bands I love going to see. Mm-hmm. And I get caught in the nostalgia of it too. But when I go see, one of my favorites is a band called Panic. They're a Morrissey Smith's tribute band, and that's like my guilty pleasure. I know that's my buddy Josh up there doing the Morrissey bit. There are people that get so into it, like they're at an actual Smith show. Like, that's not really Morrissey, and that's not really Johnny Marr. That's my buddy Marshall playing guitar. And all these people that go to it, I love that they have that nostalgia moment, but take that energy and that money and also go see a live band that is at a venue you trust. You may not know their music, but that's one upside of streaming, is that you can go listen to it. Like, I think I want to see this live. YouTube, we talked about YouTube earlier. You can go see clips of this band and support something that is happening now, and artists that are trying to make it at venues that are trying to stay open.
So, yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. Like the balance between the commodity and the art of music. Obviously you're doing this obviously to make a career of it, but at the same time, like, you're trying to hold on to like the art side of it. How is that a struggle for you, or not really?
Yes and no. I want to make music that, first of all, I'm happy with. If I'm not happy with something, I don't want to put it out there. I don't want to put something out just because, this sounds like it's commercially viable. I don't write songs from the aspect of, man, this is a perfect soundtrack for this, or this can sell this product. I want to write songs that I'm not sick of hearing, because I think it was Keith Richards that said, you better be careful what you write, because something might become a hit and you're stuck playing it the rest of your life. I don't want to feel bad about anything that I put out there and roll my eyes every time I have to play it. There is something to be said for the sync licensing side of this industry, which has become imperative to artists being able to make money. Yeah. Getting your music into music beds for TV and film, commercials, video game placement. Some buddies of mine had a song picked up by, there's a video game called, I think, Red Dead Redemption or something like that. I'm not a big video game guy, but they got a song on there and it set those guys up for a lot, and they're still making money off of that. If you accidentally fall into that, great. If you're chasing that dream, you're that's fine too. It's just not for me. That's not what I'm going to do. You got to find ways to make an income here outside of just ticket sales, because by the time you pay your agent, by the time the venue takes their cut of tickets, you pay your band, there's not a lot left over. There's so many 10 and 15% you can give away before it's all picked out and gone. So finding ways to make money beyond that, it's helpful, but it's not something that is a first priority to me. I did have a conversation with Keystone saying, hey, that's a kind of a focus for me in 2026. I'd like to find a way to monetize this music, but I'm not going to create music just for monetization. That shouldn't be how it is. It should be the art first, a good product, a good song, written well, played well, recorded well, produced well, distributed well, and it all just kind of trickles down from there. And then it turns into, oh, look, somebody picked this up for the next season of Landman, which is, the show we shoot up here in North Texas. Mm-hmm. We were talking about Quaker City Nighthawks earlier. They had a song in a pivotal episode of Sons of Anarchy. And it's a shocking moment happens in the show that changes everything. And they have one of their songs hit the minute it happens. And that's how the show closes. Changed everything for those guys.
It's amazing.
But it started with it being a great song off a great record by a great band filled with great players and great writers. And so that's how it should start. Yeah. The rest of it is gravy we all hope to find.
Yeah. I think in a racing or a driving game, I think your music would fit really well. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I take that as a compliment. I grew up a hot rodder. I grew up around bikes and cars. That's what Dad did. I'm very much my dad's son. Hot rods, go fast, don't die. That was the rule, But yeah, it's like I said, I write music that I'd like to hear, and yeah, I hope people are safe. But yeah, I like that they want to throw this on and go for a drive or go for a ride.
Yeah. So how would you say, like, growing up in Dallas and growing up in North Texas, like how did that influence you musically?
Shocker, there's a lot of church culture down here. In North Texas, the Southwest, Southeast, church is a big deal. We also had a lot of honky tonks and juke joints, and I had a grandfather who played music as a sideman here and there. There was more money in farming and ranching, so he went back into that, back to his roots. But he played out in East Texas, and if you are from here, you're dragged kicking and screaming into church from day one. And church has got its problems, but at the end of the day, there's a difference between religious and spiritual, that movement, that music can make you feel. And I think that's what I carried over from that time. In this band, it is an organ trio, and so I grew up listening to the organ, listening to piano. It's where I got to discover singing, how to sing. You got to experiment with different kind of instruments, even handbells. You know what a bell choir is? Do y'all have that?
Oh yeah.
Where you are, where it's like there are these handbells in different keys, and
Beautiful, beautiful
yeah,
thing.
it's gorgeous. It's beautiful music. And gospel music, religious music, its foundations, at the end of the day, however you feel about the message, the music is powerful. It's very, very powerful music. I think all of that has played a key role in what I try to do. Um, you can you can take the boy out of the country, you can't take the country out of the boy, is the old saying. And I think that all of that stuck with me, and it is all part of the foundations of rock and roll music anyway. Um, Gospel, country, bluegrass, soul, R&B, it all comes from this place of poor struggle. And it comes from the cotton fields, and it comes from singing with hope. And all of that ties together into what we are now under this big Americana umbrella. It all comes from the same place. And a lot of that foundation is rooted in church and religion. And that was a big part of my upbringing. My mom was classically trained in voice and sang in the church. I married a woman. I married my mom, basically. They say you marry your mother. My mom taught in Dallas public schools for years. My wife's a very talented school teacher, trained in classical voice, sings in the church. And I don't go that often anymore. I think the rule is I have to go on Easter and Christmas.
You're a creaster.
Yeah. But even then, those services, the songs are just gorgeous. It's beautiful. Everybody's singing all the parts, and being able to pick out, oh man, there's this soprano and this tenor, and hearing the way it all blends together in this really beautiful music still moves me till this day. It's still, my beliefs have changed, but the power of the music hasn't. So
I think what I hear from your music that you take from gospel music is I get that drama and tension. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely, and thank you. That is definitely something I try to incorporate into my songwriting. And I wasn't always like that. The newer stuff we're doing, you heard a lot of the stuff that's going to be on the next record at Dee's Lounge. It's because we did go on tour with Jimmy Dale Gilmore and Dave Alvin, and with a rock band, it's easy to just go full throttle all the time. Just the hammer. You're always the hammer. And I remember Jimmy Dale Gilmore. He would watch our sound checks, and he was really into it. And he pulled me aside one day. We're sitting in a green room. He goes, "Man, you have got it. You've got the power. You got the groove. Don't be afraid to take your songs on the ride of that ebb and flow. Bring them down here and build into something." And we continued to talk about that theme the rest of that tour. And I was already on that road, but he really solidified it in those conversations about song structure and taking your songs through that roller coaster of emotion and that tension, and the listener will go with you on that ride.
Is that just though laying off on the guitar, or is that all three instruments kind of laying off? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, it is the tension of layering who plays when.
Okay.
For me personally, like laying off of an overdrive or increasing swell with my reverb and delay pedals. Little things like that. On this next record, we're experimenting with more key sounds other than just the Hammond B3. what Spud's going to be doing with percussion. We're going to bring in a few more things that we're trying live and in studio, and going to toms instead of snare. It's little things like that, that all builds tension in the song. Lyrically, it's, when are you campaign shouting like a Southern Democrat, like Chuck Berry used to say? And when are you having those quiet moments where you're conveying your thoughts, your whispers, your secrets, and sharing those with the world? How do you convey those moments too? There's a song on the record called "A Thing for You" that is it's a very personal song, and it's not about one person. It's about that longing that I think everybody's felt for someone that they just don't know how to say it. And the feel of that song is very, very slowed down, but I wanted to bring the passion and the angst and the absolute despair of that power that you feel when you have that feeling for someone. I wanted to bring that out vocally, while the song itself has these moments of just quiet, and then explosions. It's a challenge, but it's getting easier as I write more. Honestly, hate hearing songs that I've written, because then I'll go back and criticize myself too often. But at some point, you got to let the song go. You'll work a song to death.
Yeah, I often ask that from artists, that kind of phrase, like, the songs are yours up until you release them into the world, and then they become ours,
Right.
That's a huge, that's got to be a little bit of a mind fuck to kind of get over. Like, talk about
it.
That.
It is because it is so personal. Songwriting is, even the fun songs about partying on Friday and Saturday night and hot rod, they're all personal. Songs are all personal. And you're putting that out there into the world, and you're telling the world about how you feel, how you love, how you hate, all of it. You're putting a piece of you out there, and now that world has that, and it's a big bad world out there. There are people that do not like my music, and that is totally fine. But there's also a little piece of me that is not fine with that, because it feels like a judgment of me, because that is me. I'm giving you a piece of me, and you have rejected it. You got to get a thick skin in this business really, really fast. Something I learned a long time ago. But there are still things that sting, because we're human. Songwriters are not robots. I know during, the lockdown times, and this country was going through a lot, there are a lot of folks out there telling musicians to shut up and sing. Well, that's not what we've ever done. It's always been personal. It's always been political. It's always been something, because it's us. Yeah, it's a song that you're listening to, but it's a song made of us and who we are.
And it's the First Amendment, like, it's the freedom of speech. Like, I think what all gets lost in all of the news and all of, like, what's been happening lately is, like, this is a direct attack on freedom of speech. Like, if you can't sing, or if you can't talk about what you want and not worry about retribution for it, like, if we lose that, we lose everything, like, everything will
Yeah,
start to fall apart. So, like, it's
there's a
troubling.
politician here in Texas that I don't like, and that's okay. That the world's big enough that we don't have to like everybody, and they don't have to like us. But Ted Cruz has been a divisive figure nationally, but especially here in Texas. When Ted Cruz says something I agree with, it's a thing. And he talked about how this is a dangerous precedent. It's a slippery slope. Mm-hmm. And it made me sit up and take note. It's like, when that guy and I agree, there's something going on here. Yeah. And it is a slippery. You can say things that I don't like. And there are guardrails in place to keep speech from becoming violent. But when you start taking away the right of artists to have a comment or have an opinion about something, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. And what makes it worse is when other artists are going after other artists. Like, man, like the whole Charlie Crockett thing with that guy. What is good? Like, what are we doing? Right?
I told my wife the other day, I saw a funny meme. It was a picture of like a fight in a restaurant. And like, one guy was Charlie Crockett, one guy was Gavin Adcock, one guy was Zach Bryan, and one guy was Morgan Wallen, and over here sitting at a table reading a book, minding his own business, was Tyler Childers. And I was like, I think I'm Team Tyler on this whole situation.
I know.
I had a conversation with Summer Dean about this not long ago, and we're just out here trying to make music, go about this the right way. There's plenty of room at the table. There's plenty of room for everybody's music, and everybody's got an opinion on it. I know Paul Coffin chimed in. I respect anybody that wants to make music and put it out in the world, and because I know how hard it is. And I'm not going to sit here and tell people, well, you're not country, you're not this, you're not that. That's not my place in all this, and it shouldn't be anybody else's. I'm not losing any fans to your fans or to you. Or good music's good music, and we should be supporting each other. And some of it feels manufactured. I really hope it's not, because that's not a good way to get follows, clickbait. I don't like that either. Either way it goes, it's not good. It's not a good look for the industry. And it's I hate that so we're at this place where Americana music, roots music, is probably at its all-time height in power. And here we are arguing with each other over who's this or who's that. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got an opinion on it, and I'm sure that there are valid points, but room enough at the table for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, if the Monkees and the White Stripes can both be rock and roll, like, come on.
Nailed it. Yeah, absolutely nailed it. There's plenty of room for everybody. Everybody come on in. Let's all go on tour together, play some songs, have a good time, and hopefully everybody else has a good time too.
Yeah. So this latest album, Americana Radio, like I joked with you earlier, such an appropriate named title for your approach or your upcoming Americanafest. But what was like, talk about that process, talking about getting these songs together and putting them into a collection of like as an album.
Well, it started off as some songs that I had written along the way when I was with the 40 Acre Mule that weren't fits for 40 Acre Mule. That band was a much bigger band than the one I have now, with saxophone and sometimes keys and this and that, 2 guitar players and big rock and roll outfit. But I had written these songs particularly with keys as the main instrument. And when I got a chance to put these songs together with this band, it starts with how I started the band. I got invited to open for Alejandro Escobedo in Dallas. He didn't want 40 Acre Mule. 40 Acre Mule was on a hiatus anyway. But I don't really like playing solo with a guitar. I'll do it sometimes. I did it with Ben Nichols from Lucero here and there. And I wanted to do this organ trio thing. And he said, yeah, come on, let's give it a shot. So we had 2 rehearsals and I had these songs and we went and played a sold out show with Alejandro Escobedo. As we start workshopping those songs, there are things that are working, things that are not working. And we just keep playing. Even if we didn't have a show, we're working in rehearsals. And before I knew it, we had 9 of these songs. One of them, as we discussed, was Mel McDaniel cover, and the other one was a 40 Acre cover. And I always knew that I was going to redo Hat in Hand because I always envisioned it as an organ song. It's a church song. And I wanted to re-record that with this band. The Mel McDaniel tune, I stumbled across as a guest artist on this show. They were doing a tribute night of 90s and 80s country. And they wanted me to do a couple of Mel McDaniel songs. And so I went down the rabbit hole of Mel McDaniel songs. And I found that one. I was like, man, that's a great story. Because we've all been there. And then I remembered the music video on Country Music TV, CMT, when I was a kid. And it's like, yeah, I remember this song. Let's rock and roll it up a little bit. So we had those 2. The other songs we built along the way, and Americana Radio, which is the title track and the hit so far. You never know what's going to be the hit. I was sure something else would be the hit off this record, and it still could end up being it. But that's a song I wrote about my time in this industry and the pitfalls of it and the quick promises of, hey, look, if you just make this record and it's got a little country, it's got a little soul, it's got a little rock, we're going to make you a star, kid. And I'd come off of a record deal with another record label and, talking to other record labels about, hey, we want to do your new thing and this and that. I was like, look, man, I'm out here just playing night after night in this beat up van, just trying to make enough money to get to the next stop and sleep indoors. And everybody has a plan for how you should do this. There's an A&R guy, there's a radio guy, everybody has an opinion. And at the end of the day, the point of the song is, yeah, it's the runaround of this industry, especially in this genre. It comes down to good songs. And people, you got good songs and you do the work. Yeah, they're going to love you on Americana Radio because Randy Macho Man Savage used to say, the cream rises to the top. Good music's good music, and people are going to find it, and it's going to find you, and you got to keep working. And it's also kind of a shout out to the people that haven't quit. This road is littered with people who had way more talent than I will ever have. They have better songs than I'll ever have. But for one reason or another, they quit. They gave up. And it's a shout out to the people with the staying power who stay in this, the people I run into on the road that are still playing the dance halls, still playing the juke joints and honky tonks. And maybe, just maybe, I look at a band like Turnpike Troubadours, who I was seeing up in Oklahoma at Mercury Lounge, playing to 40 people, to now filling arenas. And you never know. You never know. Keep at it. So yeah, that has become the hit. The rest of the songs, they're straight up rock and roll songs. And I wanted to make a rock and roll record and do it with an organ trio. And I did it in a rock and roll studio in Memphis, Tennessee. Did not want to make that record in Texas. I wanted to get back to a place where organ-driven music could flourish, which is Memphis, Tennessee. Stax was there, Booker T and the MGs. So we recorded at a studio called Memphis Magnetic Recording with a great producer named Scott McEwen. And we literally moved into the studio. We slept there, took our meals there. If we weren't sleeping, we were recording, we're working on something. Fortunately, there's a shower in there and sofas you could sleep on. And we literally moved into the studio and in 48 hours turned out most of that record. There's one song on the record that we added later, and that's the instrumental, which we recorded back here in Dallas and then kicked up to Scott, and he did his magic in Memphis. And we made that record, and it's a studio that had been suggested to me by JD McPherson. He had done Undivided Heart and Soul there with Scott. Socks, probably the best original Christmas record I think I've heard in forever. Nick Waterhouse had recorded there. Elvis Costello has since recorded there. Al Green records there. There's something in the Memphis dirt, and it's become our home. So all of that turned into a record called Americana Radio that people seem to like.
So what do we have then? You kind of mentioned the new album. Like, what are we working on? What's our time frame on that? What do we got for tour dates for the rest of the year? Like, give the audience a little bit of everything.
We just got back from some old 97 stuff. We did Western Days just Saturday with Summer Dean and Shane Smith and the Saints. Up next, we are doing an EP release, kind of doing a bookend. Yeah, I'm already putting something else out. It's an EP of 4 songs. We released Honeybee. It's a Lucinda Williams song as a single that's doing really well. But we got a song by Mickey Newberry, one by Alejandro Escovedo, one by Lucinda Williams, and a Tom Waits tune on a 4-song EP. So we're having a release party October 17th here in Dallas at Double Wide with Sophie Galt, who's fantastic out of Nashville, and a super secret surprise guest that I cannot announce other than she is wonderful. She's on Bloodshot Records, and I love her music. And if you go look at the Bloodshot roster, you'll probably figure it out.
Yeah, we went to their anniversary. Their anniversary party.
Probably figure out who it is. I'm really excited to play that show, and that'll kind of bookend the Americana part of this project. The next record it's darker, it's heavy. We have really leaned into, whereas we did a very live to tape traditional type of recording for the first record. Right. This one will be more layered. We're going to take some more chances in the studio. Some things that hopefully we can recreate live. That's really important to me, that we can keep the songs pretty close to how we can represent them in a live setting. But it's heavier. It's a little more fuzzed out. It kind of, a buddy of mine, heard some demos the other day, and it kind of sounds a little early ZZ Top, a little darker. The subject matter. But my drummer asked if I was okay. And I was like, "Yeah, man." When I brought the new songs, like, these new songs are pretty dark. I was like, "I'm really good, man." But I still have some stories to tell that we all feel, and I think that these songs will connect with the world we're living in these days. We're heading back into the studio, back into Memphis, late October and into November, as we navigate around some not yet announced tour dates. And we're going to start to work on, it's going to be a 10-song record again. I like 10 songs on a record. You can do 12, 13, double albums, all that. 10 hits just right for me. It's not too much pressure to put stuff on a record that maybe isn't great. It turns into filler. I want to put out 10 solid songs. It'll be bigger, louder, brasher. Like I said countless times, we're a rock and roll band. And in all the ways that looks, it looks like Chuck Berry. It looks like Bo Diddley. It looks like ZZ Top. It looks like all the stuff I grew up listening to. Heck, there won't be any flute on the record, but I grew up around a lot of Jethro Tull. All of that plays a part in the music I create. And yeah, hang on. The plan is for 2026, probably summer. We will see what happens. Right now, I'm enjoying being my own record label. We've had some interest from some other labels as word has spread about this, and that's always very flattering. And I'm always looking to talk to anybody. It's no secret that I'm moving on in my booking situation. But if anybody has something to talk to me about and they think that they have an idea I haven't thought of yet, let's have a conversation, because I'm willing to talk to record labels. Record labels are still good. They still serve a great purpose in getting the music out there. But like I said, we're at a place where the musician can do more for themselves than ever, and have control of their careers and hold on to their publishing and hold on to that power. And they should keep it, as much of it as they can. But my plan is to have a record out next summer and continue this momentum we have.
Yeah. So my last question for you, because it seems like you are a genuinely happy dude. Like, for a genre like the blues, where like heartbreak is such a theme, is it hard to write like a song about heartbreak when you have such a wonderful wife?
No, not hard at all, because it was a long, hard road to get there. I met my wife. My wife and I have been together now about 11 years, but we were friends well before that. We've been friends for almost 25 years. And I was into her early on, and she broke my heart. And I've had relationships in that in between time, and I've had my little heart ripped out, kicked around. Okay. Those, just because you find joy at the end of the story, it doesn't mean that the rest of it didn't happen. There's still plenty of stuff to pull from. And heartache isn't just about romantic love. Heartache's about friendships. Heartache's about career. Heartache's about losing mama, losing daddy, losing your dog. There's heartbreak and joy in everything. And so I know it's not everybody's got the blues about something. And I think that's what makes blues-based country, rock, all that music we talked about that's tied together. I think that's why everybody can relate, is because whatever it looks like, everybody can relate to heartache and pain. Mm-hmm. Heartache, trouble, misery, and sorrow comes for all of us. And that's the music that I think unites us all. And boy, do we need it right now, man. In music, it can be music, and good barbecue could be a good unifier. And tacos. I'm gonna throw tacos in there too.
I'll tell you what, man. I was surprised when we were in Nashville. We found this place called Shotgun Willie's. Have you been there?
Yeah, I know Shotgun Willie's.
Oh, man. Like, I thought I only got to go to Texas for good barbecue. That was some great stuff, man.
Yeah, man. It's you can eat in Nashville. Bolton's fried chicken is one of my all-time go-tos. Those ladies at Bolton's do not play. You better know what you order when you walk up to that window, or they'll put you at the back of the line. Yeah. But it is, I will leave it with this. We're at a time where we probably, in my lifetime, never been more divided. And it is cool to see something like Americanafest happen, where folks from all over the country, from where you are up there, where I am down here in Texas, people from all over the world came together because music brings us together. And music should do that, and I hope it continues to do that. I hope we're allowed to continue to write music and sing songs and tell stories without fear of that music being silenced. And if we can all just get together behind music and what we have in common, we're going to be all right.
We've gotten through worse, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, Jay Isaiah, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
This was fun, man. This is one of the better ones. That I do a lot of these, and sometimes they're good. This was great. This was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it. Really nice meeting you up in Nashville, and that's what Americanafest is about, bringing folks together. And I hope it continues to do this and bring more people together like us.
Amen. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. Again, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps the bands like the Boss Tweed. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR. Outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.